The Game of Thrones franchise continues despite the end of the original show, but a sequel has yet to happen, and after learning the story details surrounding an attempt with Jon Snow, I am actually glad that show did not work out. Due to how Game of Thrones Season 8's ending was disappointing, many fans have since been asking for sequel shows. Through those projects, HBO could find ways to make up for some of the characters' endings without outright redoing Season 8, which would be an unfeasible task. One of Game of Thrones' planned spin-offs would have done just that, focusing on the return of Kit Harington's Jon Snow. However, it was cancelled, and now that we know why, it was for the best. A new report reveals the Jon Snow sequel's story and why it was cancelled in 2024. Kit Harington told ScreenRant that the Jon Snow Game of Thrones sequel series was officially dead, saying, "We all couldn't find the right story. It's firmly on the shelf." Since then, Harington has further distanced himself from a Westeros return. In December 2025, the actor told Variety that chapter of his life was over, saying, "I don't want to go anywhere near it." After a long time with no story details, we now know what the Jon Snow Game of Thrones sequel series would have been about, thanks to a major franchise report. Ahead of the release of GOT's new spin-off, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, The Hollywood Reporter revealed what the Jon Snow series would have been about and why HBO felt it was best to cancel it. Related A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms review, Dunkegg's refreshing intensely charming story revitalizes Game of Thrones. HBO's prequel series A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms revitalizes Game of Thrones with a charming, heartfelt, comedic shift in tone and perspective. Posts by Jordan Williams. According to the report, Harington was developing a dark continuation of Jon's story with two writers from Gunpowder, which he starred in. The Game of Thrones sequel would have followed Jon Snow as he dealt with PTSD, having chased off his direwolf ghost and thrown away his sword Longclaw. The character would spend his days building cabins and burning them down. Jon would die alone and avoid being a hero. I am glad the Jon Snow Game of Thrones sequel series was cancelled for one simple reason. The reason why HBO cancelled the Jon Snow series is said to be due to how it found the Game of Thrones sequel too sad and dark. Well, I have to agree. One of the main complaints about Game of Thrones' final season was how Jon never fought the Night King and was later exiled from Westeros despite being key to its salvation. Subscribe for Game of Thrones sequel insights and context. Join our newsletter to get deeper coverage of the Game of Thrones franchise, cancelled sequels, creative choices, and behind-the-scenes context, helping you understand what these developments mean for fans and future spin-offs. Subscribe. By subscribing, you agree to receive newsletter and marketing emails, and accept Valnet's terms of use and privacy policy. You can unsubscribe anytime. The continuation of that story being an even sadder look at the character, now a broken man who will never be a hero again, would have been a slap in the face of fans. He had already been given the short end of the stick once, so it would make absolutely no sense to do it again, only this time for a whole series. Jon's future might be better left to the imagination, as fans can theorize on how he could have bounced back and built a better life for himself north of the Wall. Perhaps in the future, HBO and Kit Harington could get back together and work out a different story for Jon Snow's return, but for now, the Game of Thrones sequel's cancellation was the best move. 633 9.0, 10 and 10/10 Game of Thrones 10 stars 9 stars 8 stars 7 stars 6 stars 5 stars 4 stars 3 stars 2 stars 1 star. Like followed TVMA drama action adventure fantasy. Release date 2011-2019 0000. Showrunner David Benioff, D. B. Weiss. Directors David Nutter, Alan Taylor, D.B. Weiss, David Benioff. 10 images. Close cast. See all. Kit Harington, Jon Snow, Isaac Hempstead, Wright, Brandon Brand Stark. Where to watch. Close. Where to watch. Streaming by writers D. B. Weiss, George R.R. Martin, David Benioff. Franchises. Game of Thrones creators David Benioff, D. B. Weiss. Powered by Expand Collapse.